Hello, art friends. My name is Fleshwad, and today I have 3 creepy, crazy X stories for you. Before we begin, I'd just like to note that the first 2 stories are true, while the last one is not true, and you'll come to find out why. Enjoy. My creepy ex, JJ, posted by u/little_mog. My ex, JJ, was a creep. I was with him for 19 months. This happened around 2 months into the relationship, just as he was starting to get controlling, and it terrified me. It was 2 a.m. and I was in bed. I have super bad insomnia, so I was just listening to YouTube and scrolling through Reddit, not expecting to sleep for at least a couple of hours, when I heard a tap, tap, tap on my window. I assumed it was my cat, so I called her name because she always meowed when she heard her name. It was silent, and then a tap, tap, tap. I turned my YouTube right down and called my cat again. I heard her meow in the bathroom and panicked. It wasn't her outside my window. Outside my window is the roof of an extension that was built. It slopes up to my window and can easily be climbed onto via my neighbor's wood shed. At that point, I know there was someone out there, but I was too scared to look. I sent JJ a message about it, but he was asleep, so it sent but didn't deliver. The tapping kept happening, roughly every 20 seconds. There would be a tap, 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 and then silence. It continued for about 45 minutes while I lay in bed, just listening. I felt like I was stuck in my bed. Like if I came out from under the quilt, then they would somehow get me. After an hour, I realized it stopped completely. I pulled myself from my bed and went to my kitchen, where I could see the roof, and I saw a pair of legs dangling over the edge, illuminated by a torch. I decided to give up with my room, and I slept on the sofa with my cat that night. At least whoever was out there wouldn't know where I was. Next thing I know, I'm waking up to my alarm. I go to turn it off and notice that I have Snapchats from JJ, which is odd but not unheard of. They're from around 3:30 a.m., so probably just after I fell asleep. I opened the snaps and my stomach dropped. It was a photo of my bedroom window from the outside, then one of the legs dangling into my garden, and then one of me sleeping on my sofa, taken through the kitchen window. I messaged him asking what the hell he was doing. I got a reply saying he'd come to check on me and chased a guy off from my house. At that point, he had convinced me he could do no wrong, and if I opposed him, I was scared about what might just happen, so I just left it at that. From then on, it happened a couple more times, and every time I just tried to ignore it, but with the joy of hindsight, I know I shouldn't have. I should have told someone or broken up with him, but I was too scared of what he might do. I have a lot of stories about JJ. I might write some more. I've been considering putting it in a book somewhere, but I'm not sure. If anyone reads this, then I hope they enjoy it. My mom's crazy ex, posted by u/baby-luna. I love my mom, but damn, does she have some bad judgment when it comes to dudes. She got 2 other crazy exes, but those stories are a whole other thing. I also haven't written in so long, very sorry if this isn't explained too well. I wrote from what I remember happening. I have forgotten some small details at this point, but nothing big. Getting right into it. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, my mom started dating this guy, which for the sake of the story can be called Rob, and his son, who can be called Tim. We, me, my mom, and older sister, had moved in with them once school was about to be in session again, and all was good for a bit. For about 2 years actually, other than some minor things and his hella toxic masculinity. He for real constantly felt the need to put everyone else down and be aggressive all the time. I'm not really sure what made him snap one day. Could have been the fact that he was drinking, but it wasn't only when he was drunk after that. He grew very mean to Tim and I basically overnight. He wasn't so much physically abusive to me or my sister as he was to Tim. It was more mentally to me, and we never did find out why he switched up like that so fast. When I had first witnessed his abusive ways he used on Tim, I became very scared very fast, and he knew that, and that's exactly what it seemed like he wanted. This went on for months and months. Once my mom found out about the abuse happening and he saw she wasn't going to put up with that, Rob didn't like it at all. He started throwing a whole fit, straight up like a baby, kicking things and yelling at her to not go while crying, which he always tried to guilt trip her by crying. At one point, he even had punched a hole in the wall of the house we were renting. I don't remember most of that day or what was said. I just knew we were finally going to leave. At this point, my mom had called the police since he did start being violent. But of course, the cops didn't do anything about him because he was drunk. Instead, my sister got a lecture from them since she was yelling at him once he had gotten in her face. But other than that, they just left us to deal with him. After we had moved out, it was an instant relief feeling, even though I felt bad that Tim had to be stuck with that man all by himself. After the official break-off of everything is when he started to follow us. First, it was just at stores. We'd see him in one aisle, then the next, and the next. Even when we would walk way across the store, he would just show up, and it definitely didn't feel like a coincidence. This happened for the next couple weeks in a row when going to stores. We would even go back and forth between stores, grocery shopping at one week and the other store the next time. Once we stopped seeing him, my mom said she had felt less anxious about leaving the house. But that was until about a week later. That's when the endless amount of phone calls and emails started. She'd block the number and he'd just call back with a different one, or email with a new email. Mans was dedicated to cry to her about her leaving. This went on for months and months until he just got creepy. At this time, I was in basketball in elementary, so on game night we would get home at around dark or when it's dark during winter. And one night, we had left the game a bit later than usual, making it pretty dark when we got home. On our way home one night, this man was at our house, 2 months after the split, which may not be long, but come on now. My heart had fell to the floor when I saw his car there. Then seeing him on our porch, looking in the windows, my heart stopped. I could tell my mom was trying to be calm because she didn't want me to be scared. So she just kept driving and hoped he didn't see us, and thankfully he didn't. We had drove around the surrounding blocks a couple times before trying to go back home, and when we did, he wasn't there. My mom didn't feel safe just going in knowing he had violent tendencies, especially when he's angry, so to be on the safe side, she had called a friend to walk through the house with us, just to have a third person there. Thankfully, the house was all good and he was nowhere to be found. This similar type of situation had happened again, except I was home alone this time. I was sick from school and my mom had work, along with my sister, who wasn't really home to experience much of this, which is why she wasn't mentioned much previously. But again, he was looking through the windows like a complete creep. My adrenaline had got so high once I saw him, my 10-year-old self knowing I couldn't do much, nor could I move from behind the front door without him seeing me. Started pounding on the front door, which scared him off pretty fast, thankfully. Pretty sure he expected no one to be home, or I'm not really sure what he was looking for or who he was looking for. After this, I had only seen him at the store a couple other times, each and every aisle once again. Weird enough, after a couple more weird calls and voice calls, it all stopped. We never saw him or heard from him again. Well, up until about a year ago. Another email, another apology, another block for my mom. It's been almost 8 years now, but Rob, let's never meet again. I have a crazy ex and I think he's stalking me. Posted by u/cuddle_bear_sabi. I need to let this out before it goes too far. I have an ex. He seems a bit crazy and I'll explain how. My senior year, towards the end of the year, I was paired with the school's heartthrob, John. He and I quickly became friends due to this project for our science class, and he seemed to be getting a lot closer than I normally let people. And I wasn't gonna lie, I did like him. The day of our graduation, he had invited me to his graduation party, and there he asked me out in front of everyone. All eyes were on us. Most of the girls were jealous and some guys huffed out in annoyance because they were gonna ask me out that night too. I of course said yes because my feelings for him had grown a lot. We had dated for about 3 years, and everything seemed normal up until about our 4-year anniversary. I had went and hung out with some female friends, which he was fine with, but what neither of us knew was that they were bringing me to a party with a lot of guys present. I thought nothing of it. He snuck into the party and watched me from a distance. I would talk with anyone who started a conversation with me, and I kept my drink close to me at all times. He left when he heard me tell some guy that I was going to find one of my friends so she can take me home. The next day, I woke up and watched the news to see a group of boys I remember seeing and talking to at the party the night before had been found dead. I reached out to my friends who took me to the party, and they had also heard the news. Almost a month later, I went out to a cafe with a male friend, and this is when John started to concern me. I told John about my plans the previous night, and he said he was fine with it. But he was asking, what was the guy's name and which cafe we were going to. I woke up to meet with my friend, only to find out John wasn't home, so he must have left for something important. I had gotten dressed, and when I arrived to the cafe, I had seen my friend's car, and I went to greet him. I was met with my friend's corpse. I was left in complete horror, and quickly called 911 while I was crying. One of the female officers had comforted me while the other officers took care of the rest. A year after I found my friend in his car, I noticed every time I mentioned I was hanging out with a guy, or if I had hung out with a guy, they would end up deceased the next day or before I get to hang out with them. One day after I had hung out with the guy, I noticed he went missing the next day. He wasn't deceased, but he was definitely missing. I was slightly worried. But every time John came home after this guy went missing, there was something off about him. Sometimes he'd come home with small red splatters on his arm, and when I asked, he'd just say he was doing some painting. Other times, I'd find some of our kitchen knives and other harmful objects. When I asked him about them, he told me he must have misplaced them after he used them. After a while, I started to receive things. The first thing I got was in a small box, and when I opened it, I found a finger. A real human finger, inside with a note. I read it, and it said, "I hope this will tell you not to hang out with men." And I instantly thought I had a stalker. I wasn't wrong. John started leaving before I'd wake up and coming home just as I was going to bed. I kept receiving creepy things, and I stopped hanging out with men. I turned every package into the police, and they started an open investigation. They questioned me, but never got to question John because he was never home. One day I went out to the shed we had and heard some painful whimpers. "Help," said a strained voice that was obviously crying. I followed the sound to behind our shed and seen a small outhouse, kind of like a big doghouse, and I went inside. What I had seen had been similar to me finding my dead friends or people I had hung out with, except this time he was alive. I quickly called the police and they immediately came over. The man was taken to the hospital and they took everything in the smaller shed as evidence. They questioned the man but couldn't get who was doing all of this. After everything, I knew my suspicions of John were correct. He's been missing and I've left the house we lived in together. I got an apartment on the ground floor of the building I'm staying in. As of current day, John has still not been found. And I have this feeling that someone's watching me every day. At night, I make sure to lock all of my windows and to lock both my front door and bedroom door. I'm writing this in my bedroom and it's currently 5 p.m. I have the feeling of being watched again coming back. All of my curtains are closed, but it's strange. I've got to go. There's tapping on my window.